In many circles, I noticed the terms minhag and halachah being used interchangeably. If you find the time, would you explain in simple terms the importance of the difference between the two? Thank you so much, Rabbi. Liba, if I find the time? Where at 3 o'clock in the morning does Liba find the time to answer your questions? Her and Yitzhak Shem Tov are up in the middle of the night. They're up in the middle of the day. They are everywhere in the world answering your questions. I think we owe you a thank you, not the other way around. Minhag and halakha. Okay, let's set some terms straight. Just because people say something is a minhag doesn't make it minhag. Even more, just because people say the word minhag and halakha doesn't mean they have any idea what they're talking about. So right before the shiur, I was on the phone with Rabbi Yosef Zarnigan, who, Baruch Hashem, is a dear friend of mine. And I owe him many hours of limud Torah. When I'm in the middle running between one place and the next and I feel like I haven't learned enough Torah today, I call Rabbi Yosef. So Rabbi Yosef, are you working? Yes. Do you have 10 minutes? That really means do you have 2 hours? He has 2 hours? Great. I'm driving to Los Angeles. I need somebody to talk to. And every discussion with him is like, it's like reading a book. He is a walking, talking Sefer Torah. Ashrav v'ashrei. And obviously he'll be very mad at me afterwards for saying this, but I said it anyways. So let's clarify some terms. Halachah. Halachah is from the word lalechet, walking. It's the way in which we walk, meaning v'halachta b'darchav, we're commanded to follow Hashem's ways. Let's define terms. Halachah is anything ruled in the Torah as understood by the rabbis of the Talmud, the Mishnah and the Talmud. So, Torah according to Chazal. That's halachah. Biblical, rabbinic, those fall under the categories of halachah. Gezerah. What's a gezerah? We use a gezerah, takana. I hear people throwing around. Kidniot was a takana. A takana by who? Who was mitaken? Who made this gezerah? Let's discuss. Halachah, Torah law, as understood by our rabbis, and therefore includes rabbinic law. Gezerah, gezerot are what our chachamim also call siyag la Torah. You must make a fence for the Torah. So gezerah is, the Torah said we can do X, but our rabbis felt that if we get too close to X, we'll violate it, and therefore they made a fence around the Torah. And so those are rabbinic laws, but they're not standalone rabbinic laws. They're always embellished onto a biblical law. So rabbinic law that's meant to protect the Torah law is what we call a gezerah. It's a decree. A takana. Takana milashon letaken. An institution meant to fix. It's made by a national Jewish court as an institution. And it's not meant to protect the halakha. So takanot usually are not meant to protect you from violating a halakha, but they're meant to, Chachamim see a problem. Chachamim see this problem needs fixing, whatever reason, and they institute something new in the power given to them by halakha to institute a takana, a fixing, to solve a problem that's in the Jewish community. A minhag. Minhag. We reach the term minhag. Rambam writes in his introduction to the Mishneh Torah. Rambam writes in his introduction to the Mishneh Torah that until Ravina and Rav Ashi, everything written in the Mishnah and the Talmud is binding upon the whole Jewish community. I have a video about this as well. Maybe also in the Two Torahs video and Candid Conversations. And our Rambam writes, everything until Ravina and Rav Ashi, you can force any Jewish community to follow the Talmud. They must. Every Jewish community must follow the Mishnah and the Talmud. That was unanimously accepted by the Jewish people. After the Talmud, there is no one who can decree. So if you're a Gaon, you're one of the Gaonim in Iraq, and you're the rabbi who rules over Iraq, you can make rules for the Jews in Iraq, but you have no permission to make laws for the Jews in Egypt, or for the Jews in Morocco, or definitely in Poland or Russia or France. And if you're a Chacham sitting in Germany, and you have a decree, you can't make a new minhag, a new decree over the people that are not listening to you, that are not part of your community. It's for that reason that you can't compel people to follow what a Sephardic halakha, Ashkenazi halakha. Everyone does what they do. A minhag, one has to be hunhag al pi chachamim. I saw a letter from Bishalom Asas to Rabbi Baruch Toledano, who is the author of, you may know, Ashorer Shira Lichvod Torah. I just got a teshuvot of his, recently published. I believe it was published posthumously. Posthumously, however you pronounce that word. I was now in Israel, I saw this in a bookstore, I said, well, I haven't seen this teshuvot. It has fascinating conversations between him and Rabbi Yosef Masas, him and Rabbi Shalom Masas. In a letter, Rabbi Shalom Masas, he says, a minhag is only minhag if Chachamim instituted this minhag. You can't just, it's because you did something, your grandma did something, it doesn't make it a minhag. My grandfather had a minhag to wear a robe with no pants. So now I have to wear a robe with no pants. No, it's not a minhag. Just because your grandparent did something doesn't make it a minhag. If the Talmidei Chachamim of a place instituted a minhag, that's a minhag. The second has to be matsui. There's a number of places, the Rama, the Rivash, there are a number of different poskim that discuss. If it's not common, it's not a minhag. So for example, if you are reading a book and you find, minhag Polin is not to eat green onions on Pesach. But in your family they eat green onions on Pesach, and all the Ashkenazi Jews you know eat green onions. I'm Polish, I must keep this minhag. You don't have to keep this minhag. If it's not matsui, it's not relevant, it doesn't exist, then it's not a minhag. Minhagim apply if they are mitsuim, if they exist. Next, they are normally limited to a locale. So minhagim are not for the whole Jewish people. They're what happens in a certain place. And if I could add one personal definition of the word minhag, and that is things that are not halachic. They're not, also not extra halachic. So they're not meant to create new laws. Rather, minhagim are normally things that create the experience around the minhag. So everyone knows that according to the Torah, you have to wear tefillin. According to the rabbis, tefillin must be a certain way. But which way do you wrap tefillin? Outwards, inwards, standing, sitting. Those things may already be dependent on minhagim. Shabbat must be observed according to Halachah, the Torah, and according to the rabbis. What songs you sing on Shabbat, or which customs the rabbis of that place instituted that people should do on Shabbat in order to create the experience of Shabbat. Those are minhagim already. And therefore, what is the value of minhagim? Minhagim, they fill in the blanks. They're minhagim are, I'll give you an example. So do you put on tefillin? Do you make a baracha on the hand tefillin or the head tefillin? There's a machloket among the rabbis, hand tefillin or head tefillin. Ultimately, what you find is the Talmud does not give a clear answer to this question. And different communities had different minhagim. Why? They assume this is what they learned from their parents, from their parents, from their parents, and that's the value of a minhag. So should you change from one to the other? Well, if you have an unbroken chain from your parents to Moshe Rabbeinu, so why would you change? There's no compelling legal reason to go one way or the other. I'm putting aside now the authority of Maran, the codifying of the Rambam. I'm simply sharing an idea of a minhag. It's similar to what Rabbeinu Avraham ben Rambam writes in Hamaspik Lovdashim, in the Guide to Serving God. That people normally think that being strict, lachmir, is to do more in quantity. So I'm strict and I do more. Rabbeinu Avraham ben Rambam writes, I'm strict and I do it better in terms of quality. So two people can observe Shabbat. There's no way to observe Shabbat more. It's not like if you don't do this on Shabbat and you tie yourself to bed on Shabbat and you don't get out of your bed on Shabbat, you don't do anything, you don't eat on Shabbat, you don't cook food, you don't eat food, you don't drink drinks. You're not doing Shabbat better. You're simply doing Shabbat more. Doing Shabbat better is, Rabbi Avraham ben Rambam writes, and I recommend to every person who doesn't own this today, it's already in English. Feldheim even put out a Hebrew-English translation. Obviously, you'll trust translations however much you trust them. Is how you observe Shabbat. What does it feel like in your home on Shabbat? What kind of songs do you sing on Shabbat? How connected do you reach what he calls a divine encounter? A pgia Elohit. How often do you encounter the divine in your Shabbat experience? That's what makes you more Shabbat observant. Not if you open cans or don't open cans, or you cut birthday cakes with letters or not. Judaism has to be redesigned and reimagined. Or let me say it better. The Judaism that has been redesigned and reimagined to the nightmare that we know it has to be reverted back to the Judaism that made sense. So, do minhagim violate halakha? No. That's a simple answer. The Rivash, the Pri Chadash. If you look at the Stei Chemed, he has an Malachta Poskim over there. That any minhag, that's not where the Stei Chemed mentions it. Any minhag that goes against a halakha, biblical, but even rabbinic, that minhag doesn't stand, you get rid of that minhag.